It's raining in the park today, so I'm sitting here in the rain in a public park, so there might be a bit of noise around me. I don't really know where to start with my story, but Hans wasn't just my boyfriend, he was my fiancé. We were actually going to be getting married in October. We had all these plans where a friend of mine had an olive grove in Malta, and we were going to get married there. We were going to turn it into a big love festival. I had the flower girl sorted out. I even had a little white dress that Hans loved and that we were going to use for the wedding. And when I got to Germany, Hans fell into a really big depression. He became like a different person. He would have these episodes where he would get really angry, and I didn't really know how to cope. But my main thing was about just trying to help him when he'd wake up in the morning with a panic attack. And there was something about being there to be able to support another human being, that I think probably distracted me from what was going on inside me. And we went from being totally in love in Gozo to him going more and more into himself in Germany, and to the point where I wasn't really getting much connection from this human being. He wasn't able to give me the love that I needed anymore. It was like he had two different personalities. There was this loving part of him that a lot of my friends have seen, and when he was in that space, there was nothing better. Like, to be loved unconditionally by another human being and to love them back, and just to be fearless in that love. And we went to Germany without a plan. The only plan was we were going to get married in October. The other plan was that he needed to make some money. So that was why we went to Germany, because he was a renowned tattoo artist. There is so much genius in Hans. It's really devastating when someone with that level of genius and mastery decides to end their own life, because anything that he turned his hand to would be a masterpiece. So he was a well-known tattoo artist in Germany. He did realism art on people's bodies. He also painted, and he played the guitar. Like, if you know who Estes Tones is, and I'll try and remember to leave a link underneath in the description, he could play the guitar like my favorite guitarist. In fact, it was both of our favorite guitarists. Don't laugh, but we met in hospital. We met in what I suppose in America they call the psych ward. And he was hitting on me even though we were in hospital. And we just connected on a soul level. I think we knew what each other's were going through. And we didn't want to be out of each other's sight. We wanted to be around each other like 24/7. If we were away from each other for an hour, it would be painful. It was that kind of level of connection. I don't know if you've heard of twin flame connections, but I think it was a twin flame connection. Twin flame connections are very painful. They're not easy ones, and this in the end became very difficult to navigate, which was why in the end I felt like I needed to go to England. But my father is very supportive, but it was very difficult for my mother to support me, and to be in a place where I wasn't able to really express myself or be myself. And that's kind of what's going on at the moment. So I came back to stay with a friend in Gozo, but I ended up in hospital again. I was completely numb from the shock of Hans's death. And I think my body just went into a shutdown mode. So the only thing I could do was to pace around the house and to rest. And there were the only two things I could do: pace around the house or rest. There was nothing in between. I wasn't motivated to do anything at all. And it wasn't until a friend of mine introduced me to a healer. I went to see this healer here in Gozo, and she did a cacao ceremony where you boil the water and you put a really heavy chunk of cacao into the water and you drink it, and the idea is that it connects you with your heart. I felt completely disconnected during the ceremony, but after the ceremony, this healer did what's called a Kundalini healing session on me. So she blew ceremonial tobacco over me. She's from Chile. You know, this is what you could call tribal medicine. And then she did this Kundalini healing. So she channeled energy to heal me. And something shifted in my body. I could physically feel this shift in my body. And the next day, for the first day, I managed to cry full on for a whole day and a whole night. It was finally an opportunity to remember all the good memories around hands. And I was so relieved to cry because it made me feel like a human being. And I really want to document and share what I'm going through because this has been the most turbulent time in my life. I woke up this morning feeling so lonely. I can't tell you how excruciating the loneliness was when I woke up. But I have to be honest, every day it does feel like God has me in his hands. I don't know what the plan is often for each day at the moment. I'm not working. So it just happens that a friend gets in contact and wants to meet up. So what's going to happen today, which is probably going to be a very emotional process, is that I'm going to pick up Hans's guitar from a friend. He left it here in Gozo. Thank God he left it here in Gozo because I have something of his. And the other day I discovered something called 10,000 hours. And 10,000 hours is where you, in order to master something, you have to devote 10,000 hours to the mastery of something. And something that I recently learned about myself, I've learned a lot of negative things about myself recently. And one of the things I learned is that I've become bored of life. And I think that's why I've been in such a heavy depression. There's this feeling like, what's the point? You know, I mastered being a ballet dancer. I got to such a high level. I danced with the Royal Ballet Company, but then I was unable to get a job. And then the same thing with acting. I got to a high level where I was acting opposite Hollywood TV stars. And then I just didn't fit into the industry. I just couldn't get a job. It didn't suit my vulnerability. It was just such a tough industry, and it was too painful for me. So having mastered two things in my life and then not being able to make a living out of it, there's this feeling of despondency. Like, what's the point? What's the point in mastering something if it can't go anywhere? What's the point of doing anything? And that's the feeling that I've been having lately. But what I realized recently is that what is the opposite of being bored? Well, in a way, the opposite of boredom is mastery. So I was like, well, if you pull back a bow, you've got a bow and arrow and you pull back a bow, there's only so far that this bow can go back till your elbow is going to have to release and send the arrow off in another direction. So in order to save my own life, I've got to get out of this place of complacency and boredom. I've got to drag myself into learning new skills. It's really painful at the moment because there's a part of me that since Hans died has just given up. Like I don't see the point in anything. But at the same time, you can't be living as a dead person. You can't be living as a dead person. If you're alive, there's a reason that you're alive. And you got to find a way to not only survive in this world, but to thrive. You know, I'm tired of just surviving in this world, which was one of the reasons why having a partner was like the most beautiful thing that had ever happened to me. To have someone who loved me, someone who would cook for me, someone who would take care of me and be there for me, someone to come home to. And now I've got no one to come home to, and the emptiness and the loneliness is the most extreme I've ever felt before. Like, the connection we had was on a soul level, and it was the most precious thing ever. So today I'm going to go and pick up Hans's guitar, and I'm going to take it to a friend, and I'm going to lovingly open it, and I'm going to commit myself to try and break through all of my resistance about learning a new skill, because there's this feeling like, what's the point? What's the point? Just what's the point? Why bother? That's when you're in the deepest of depressions. You just feel like, what's the point and why bother? Oh my God, it's really raining now. I'm going to get soaked. I'm supposed to be walking all the way to go and get this guitar, but I'm not going to be able to walk in the rain. Anyway, I'll leave it there. when I reach my friend with the guitar, I will share the next video with you, which is the process that I'm going to go through, which I think is going to be a painful one, because Hans was a genius on guitar, and when he taught me, he was a master at teaching as well. He had a beautiful way of teaching, and I'm going to miss that, and his sweetness and his ability. I don't even want to go there. But somehow I have to find the will to live. Somehow I've got to find a way that I can be here on this earth and find a purpose. So today my purpose is to go and get that guitar, to pick it up, and to see if I can drag myself through the stages of resistance that are required to learn a new skill and to find beauty in it. And I know that when I see that guitar, it's going to make me miss him even more, but that's what I feel called to do today, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share the next video with you of the process of picking up that guitar, but I'm going to run away from the rain now, so I'll see you guys later.